Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic here, and I'm doing another tutorial for soundoracle.net. And let's dive in. What I'm doing today is I'm diving into Omnisphere, and I'm going to show you my top 5 features that I think every producer should know. Some of these you might know, some of them, if you're new to Omnisphere, you might not even know that it could do it. Some of them you might have saw it there and overlooked it. Either way, I think somewhere in here it can help every producer in somehow, some way. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what I'm going to be doing for majority of it is I'm going to switch over to the big browser. This is not the tip, but I do like the big browser. All I do is see where the mouse is shaking here. I just click on the file name of the patch, and that gives me just a little bit bigger browser. You may not like this browser. I do, so if you want to know how I got there, that's how I did it. All right, so let's start with sound match here. That's my first tip here, and it's really cool. It's Omnisphere's way of, if you like a sound, you can find other sounds in Omnisphere that sound like it. So first thing I got pulled up here is this Mellotron flute. Right, so that's a cool sound, and you might want to find other things that sound like that. All I got to do is hit sound match, and now everything that Omnisphere has inside of it that sounds like that will pull up. So let's check it out. So just a really cool feature to be able to have. I'll show you how it sounds on one other sound here. So there's this pad that I really like. I think it's pretty versatile pad, but it's the cedar pad. But I may not want to overuse that on every single one of my beat, even though I want to have something that kind of has that tone and vibe to it. So again, just hit sound match here and be able to just. And now I can find things that sound like the cedar pad, and it's like a really cool option to be able to have. So again, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. All right, let's move on to my next feature here is this little sort button down here. I think it's really convenient. So what we can do here is, normally when we open up, we start with one here that's way up top. What we can do though is we can switch the order up a little bit. So if you're just looking for things that you've rated over the years while you're using Omnisphere, you can start with that to where you know that you want to start with sounds that you love. And so now we've completely switched the order in our browser to be off of things that we've rated. Right, and then you see it goes all the way down from my 5 stars all the way down to my 3 stars. Right, and then all the way down to things I just haven't rated at all. So, and that's not the only thing that you can rate here. We can also rate things from A to Z. We can sort things from Z to A. And I think it's just really nice to be able to sometimes switch it up because there's so many sounds in here. I think there's like 10,000 sounds in here. And that's not like exaggerating. That's like actually what's in this instrument. And so sometimes it can either be overwhelming or sometimes you got to go through a lot of BS to be able to really find the sounds. And so this is just something that can really help you find different sounds quicker and maybe find stuff that you really haven't heard before. All right, speaking of that, I got another tip, and my next tip is the shuffle mode. So let's say that you are in Retroland, right? This is a really dope folder. People really like this. Let's go ahead and switch off our order here. But this is a folder that people really like, right? But it always starts off with the same ones up top, which is cool, but sometimes you might want to have like a little bit different sound selection. So all you got to do is just hit shuffle, and now what it does is it switches the order of where things appear in your browser. So now you can find new sounds that you may not have seen, or maybe sounds that you forgot about. Right, so that's a sound that, for instance, real talk, I did not know that was in there, so that's actually one that I'm gonna rate because I think that's a cool sound. But I wouldn't have found that without having shuffle mode in there, and I can just keep shuffling, and it will just switch the order up, and I can find and discover new sounds inside of Omnisphere. Again, that's one that I might like right there. Maybe not my favorite, but one that I might want to come back to. So just something that's really powerful inside of there. I think that's really cool, and I wish that more VSTs had that. They don't. Omnisphere does, and that's why Omnisphere is one of my favorites. And so what I'm going to pull up here is we're going to go over this lock button up here, right? And I think this lock button is slept on, and I think it's really, really powerful. And what it allows us to do is we can lock things in certain things like effects and clock speed and envelopes and stuff to work through every single patch that we're browsing through. And so what do I mean by that? Well, let me start out with a sound that everybody knows. It's one of the main iconic sounds in Omnisphere. It's the Memoriam bell, right? People like that sound. It's really dope, but it gets overused a lot. So if you want to have that vibe, but you don't want to keep using the Memoriam bell over and over again, it's really cool. It has its own effects chain. And so when we look at it, these are the effects that are applied to the Memoriam bell. And so if we go ahead and we hit effects lock, now what happens is everything that we browse through is going to have that same effects change on. So you see as I'm changing it, it's switched. So let's go back to earlier. I had pulled up this cedar pad, right? And let's check that out. So now the cedar pad can have that sound. Originally, the cedar pad had sounded like this. But with the Memoriam bell in there, now we've been able to kind of have that sound of the Memoriam bell. Now let's try this again here with that flute that I had earlier on. So we have the bell. So now if I switch to that Mellotron flute that we were using earlier, the Mellotron flute could have the Memoriam sound to it. And originally, I'll show you what the Mellotron flute sounded like before we switched it over. You see the effects chain changes, and this is how it originally sounded. So it just kind of really gives it a different sound, and it's a really cool way to be able to, find stuff that you like and then switch it up and then get stuff that sounds really unique and different, because who knows what you could come up with. And it doesn't have to be the Memoriam bell effects chain. It could be any chain that you like. All right, so we're going to stay on this here. This is the same tip, but other things too that you can lock in here is, let's say you're going through like your ARPs and stuff like that, right? All right, and let's say that you want to have the clock speed cut in half, right? Because that might be a little too fast, and you might have like the rhythm and the pace of how you want the beat to feel in your head, but you really haven't found the sound yet. And it can be kind of annoying as you're flipping through patches that it keeps changing the clock speed on you, and you don't get that in there. So let's say you want to have it at half speed, right? Well, I can come up here and I can lock clock speed, right? And so now with lock clock speed, everything that I browse through is going to keep it at half clock speed. So that can be really useful because now I'm able to just keep the consistent feel and stuff, and I'm not being thrown off of like, oh no, that ARP won't work, that's too fast. No, now everything you're hearing is the same. And the same with you can lock in your ARP right here. So if you like this ARP pattern and how all the timing and the speed and everything that's going on, you can go ahead and we can lock in, and we can lock in a couple at the same time. We can lock in our clock speed and our ARP. So now when we go back to Age of Clarity, it will have the same vibe to it and the same pattern. So again, it can just be something that's really useful to be able to keep the same vibe, keep the same patterns going, but you just haven't found the sound right. This lock button up here is really cool. And then you can clear all, you can lock all if you just fell in love with how something completely sounds. Just lock all, and then everything that you browse through will just keep all that. So it's really, really cool. All right, so the last thing I want to dive in here is something it's kind of small. It's more of if you're kind of trying to tweak things, but I think it can still be useful. And that has to deal with all these little sliders and knobs right here. So as you see when I move it here, things kind of move at more of an aggressive quick pace, right? Things kind of jump from 150 to, 188, and there's not like a lot of in between, except if you hold down the shift button. Now I can fine tune these. So if I want to have something be like 170, or if I want to bring it down to 165, I can, versus being at more of a fast aggressive pace, just jumping in between little like 10 or 15-second increments here. I can fine tune these by just holding down shift. So again, really convenient to be able to have. And these were my top 5 features inside of Omnisphere that I think every producer should know. If there's ones in here that I didn't go over that you really like, please share, because I'm sure the community would love to hear what some of your favorite features inside of Omnisphere are. It's a really powerful tool, and there's so many things to cover in here. So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there's some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man Sound Oracle everywhere at Sound Oracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to soundoracle.net. All right, till next time.